The symptom that only the chosen feel, Carl Jung said. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever looked around at your life and whispered to yourself, something just doesn't feel right anymore? It's not sadness, it's not confusion. It's a strange emptiness, like you've outgrown your own skin, like the life you've been living doesn't belong to you anymore. Congratulations, because what you're feeling, that's not a breakdown, that's a breakthrough. Most people go their entire lives asleep. They follow scripts written by others. Get good grades, get a job, fit in, shut up, settle down, survive. They obey, they perform, they conform. But then there are a few, the chosen ones. Not because they're better, but because they're ready. Because the universe, the soul, the divine unconscious, selects them to awaken. And here's the thing, awakening doesn't arrive like a movie scene. No glowing angels, no aha moment, no applause. Awakening arrives like a storm, quiet, heavy, terrifying. It begins with a symptom that most people ignore. This life no longer feels like mine. You start questioning everything. The people around you, the system, the job, the beliefs, the identity you've worn like a costume for years. Suddenly, none of it fits. You're not broken. You're being summoned. Carl Jung called this moment the call to individuation, a psychological and spiritual death of who you were told to be, so you can finally become who you truly are. This isn't anxiety, it's activation. This isn't weakness, it's your awakening symptom, a sacred alarm clock. Meant only for the few bold enough to answer. So if you've been feeling like your life is glitching, if you feel detached, misaligned, emotionally raw, even crazy, stop blaming yourself. You're not going backwards, you're being reborn. Because the truth is this, only the most powerful souls are given this kind of pain, not as punishment, but as permission. Permission to rise, to question, to shed, to evolve, to become something the world has almost forgotten, a fully conscious, powerful, healed human being. So let's break it all down. The 8 secret psychological layers of this awakening symptom, why it means you're chosen, not cursed, and how Carl Jung's philosophy explains the divine rebellion you're going through. Are you ready to stop surviving and start remembering who you really are? Let's begin. Layer 1. The life you built feels fake, dismantling the persona. There comes a moment in your journey when you're surrounded by everything you thought you wanted, a job, a stable relationship, friends, goals, even applause. But still, deep inside, something whispers, "This isn't me anymore." And that whisper starts to haunt you. Because on the outside, everything looks fine. But on the inside, it all feels like a performance. You wake up and wear your smile like armor. You play your roles like a trained actor. You say all the right things, you hit all the right milestones, and yet, it's hollow. You're living a script that you didn't write. Carl Jung had a name for this moment. He called it the collapse of the persona, the fake identity we construct to survive in society. It's the mask you wear to be accepted, to be liked, to be successful. But here's the raw truth. Your soul was never born to be liked. It was born to be free. And when awakening begins, that mask becomes too heavy to carry. The career you chased suddenly feels like a cage. The relationship you once adored now feels like a silent performance. The goals you've been running toward, you realize they were never truly yours. They were downloaded from culture, from parents, from pressure, not from purpose. That's when the great collapse begins, not outside, but within. The chosen ones, the rarest souls, they don't ignore this collapse. They don't numb it with distractions. They don't fake it until they break. Instead, they step into it. They let the persona fall and begin what Carl Jung called the individuation process, the journey of peeling off every false label, every identity you've been conditioned to wear, until all that remains is your real self. But let's be honest, this process isn't pretty. It's not a peaceful meditation retreat. It's an emotional earthquake. It's crying at 3 a.m. for reasons you can't explain. It's feeling like a stranger in your own life. It's realizing that you've been surviving, not living. And that realization hurts like hell. Because when your soul truly awakens, you don't just outgrow people, you outgrow the person you thought you were. You stop craving the system's validation. You stop chasing the applause of the crowd. You start craving truth, no matter how lonely it feels. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. This is what being chosen really looks like. It's not glamorous, it's not fun, it's not easy, but it's real. You begin to dismantle the life you built, not because it failed, but because it was never truly yours. And once you've tasted even one drop of authenticity, you can never go back to the performance. You can't unsee what your soul has revealed. You can't unknow the feeling of living a lie, and so the journey begins. Not to build a new life, but to remember the one you were always meant to live. The persona must die, so the soul can finally rise. Layer 2. Familiar people feel foreign, collective unconscious misalignment. You're sitting across from an old friend, someone you've laughed with, cried with, grown up with, but something's shifted. You look into their eyes and you realize you're not speaking the same language anymore. Not the language of words, the language of energy, of truth, of consciousness, and you don't understand why at first. You ask yourself, why does this feel so off? Why do I feel like I'm pretending just to stay connected? The answer is deep. It's not personal. It's spiritual. You are no longer part of the collective unconscious. Carl Jung said that most people live on autopilot, acting out inherited patterns, beliefs passed down like family heirlooms, values built on societal scripts, dreams borrowed from the people around them. It's not their fault. It's how the unconscious collective survives. It keeps everyone in sync, even if that sync is fake. But the moment your awakening begins, the moment your soul starts asking deeper questions, the moment you start peeling away the mask, you break the frequency. Your vibration changes, your consciousness expands, and suddenly, the people who once felt like home begin to feel like foreign lands. You don't hate them. You don't judge them. You just can't find yourself in them anymore. The jokes don't hit the same. The gossip feels heavy. The conversations feel forced. The silence between you grows louder than the words. Because you've shifted from fitting in to breaking free. And here's what nobody tells you. Spiritual growth is not just about rising. It's about releasing. Letting go of connections that were once comforting, but now feel suffocating. The friendships start fading, not because you're cold, but because you're climbing to a place they're not ready to go. The family dynamics start cracking, not because you're cruel, but because you've stopped playing the role they assigned you. The old rhythms go silent, not because you've lost your way, but because you've found your truth. And that truth doesn't always come with company. You're not isolating. You're recalibrating. You're not better than them. You're just on a different frequency now. This is the pain that chosen ones carry silently. You don't just lose people. You lose the version of yourself that once needed them. And that grief is part of your transformation. Because Carl Jung taught, the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents. And most people live under those burdens, unhealed traumas, unconscious beliefs, outdated patterns. But you, my friend, you're doing what they never dared to do. You're confronting the unconscious and rising above it. So the next time an old friend drifts away, the next time a loved one can't see the new you, don't force the connection. Honor the detachment. You're not leaving them behind. You're just aligning with a deeper version of yourself. One that cannot be confined by the past. One that refuses to shrink just to stay accepted. This is what being chosen feels like. It's lonely. It's confusing. But it's sacred. Because one day, the people who truly match your new frequency, they'll find you. And you'll no longer feel foreign, you'll feel home within. Layer 3. Energy becomes loud. Psychic sensitivity awakens. At first, it feels like the world is just too much, too loud, too crowded, too fast. The music feels like noise. The notifications feel like invasions. The conversations around you, empty and exhausting. You try to go to the same places, be around the same people, but suddenly, everything that used to feel normal now feels intolerable. You're not going crazy. You're becoming conscious. Carl Jung called this the emergence of the sensitive inner observer. It's the part of you that awakens when the unconscious starts dying, when the masks begin to fall, when the distractions no longer numb you, when the chaos of the outside world can't overpower the whispers of your soul anymore. You're no longer sleepwalking, you're no longer operating on autopilot. You've started feeling everything, and that's the point where the journey gets real, because for the first time in your life, you're not just hearing people's words, you're sensing their energy. You're picking up on the tension behind their smiles. You can feel when someone is lying, even if they never say a word. You walk into a room and instantly know, this space doesn't feel right. This person's vibration is off. I need to protect my peace. This isn't some magical superpower. This is psychic purification. This is your nervous system becoming aligned with truth. You're becoming sensitive, not because you're weak, but because you're finally raw, authentic, unarmored, connected. Carl Jung believed that when a person begins to integrate their shadow and step into individuation, they don't just become wiser, they become energetically awake. And that awakening? It's a double-edged sword, because while others are still lost in illusion, you start seeing the truth behind the illusion. You start noticing who drains you, who manipulates you with charm, which places steal your peace, which voices feel like poison in your ears. And yes, it's painful, because now you can't just scroll social media mindlessly. You see the ego games, the attention addiction, the spiritual bypassing, the toxicity hidden in filtered smiles and positive vibes-only captions. You can't sit in gossip anymore. You can't fake laughs at shallow jokes. You can't drown your pain in parties, likes, or chaos, because your soul has become too loud to ignore. Your soul has become your compass. You don't need proof, you feel truth, and once you feel it, there's no going back to numbness. This psychic awakening is not just spiritual, it's biological. Your nervous system is learning to protect you from what's fake and guide you toward what's aligned. You'll lose people. You'll cancel plans. You'll become more selective about where your time and energy go. And people may say, you've changed, let them. Because in reality, you've evolved. You're no longer available for fake vibes, surface-level connections, or energy leaks. You're entering the most sacred phase of awakening, where the world doesn't define your reality, your soul does. You've become an energetic being in a noisy world. And while it may be overwhelming at first, it is the gift that will save your peace, protect your purpose, and lead you home. Because in a world full of noise, your sensitivity is your superpower. It's your compass. It's your connection to source. It's how you feel your way through the fog, until you find the truth again. Layer 4. You no longer compete. Ego death begins. There was a time when you chased the crown. You wanted to win, to be seen, to be better, to be chosen, to be the loudest voice in the room, the name on everyone's lips, the one who made it. But now, you just don't care anymore. The promotion feels empty. The applause echoes with hollowness. The attention feels like noise, not nourishment. You don't want the spotlight. You want silence. You don't want the throne. You want truth. And if that confuses people around you, let it. Because something deeper is happening inside of you. Something Carl Jung described as the death of the ego. In Jungian psychology, the ego is the mask, the identity we build to survive in a world that rewards performance. It's the part of you that wanted to win, so you'd finally feel worthy. It's the part of you that needed to prove yourself, because deep down, you were terrified of being forgotten. But now, that part of you is starving. Not because you've failed, but because you've awakened. The hunger for validation gone. The obsession with being the best replaced by a craving to just be real. Because ego doesn't want truth, it wants trophies. And when your soul awakens, trophies start to look like trash. You begin to see through the game, the rat race, the competition, the clout-chasing culture. You see that it's all built on insecurity, people scrambling to prove they're better, richer, smarter, prettier, while secretly aching for love and authenticity. But you're done playing that game. You don't want to be seen, you want to see clearly. You don't want to be number one, you want to be whole. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, And who you truly are has nothing to prove to this world. Because here's the truth. Competing is a symptom of disconnection. When you don't know your worth, you try to outperform everyone around you. But once you remember who you are, you stop running the race. Because you realize you were never in it. The world taught you to fight for a seat at the table. But your soul knows it was born to build a new table entirely. So no, you're not lazy. You're not uninspired. You're not falling behind. You're just waking up. Waking up to the lie that external success equals internal peace. Waking up to the illusion that competition makes you strong. Waking up to the truth that real power comes from alignment, not applause. So now, you don't seek validation. You seek impact. You don't crave attention. You crave connection. You don't chase status. You honor soul purpose. You're not trying to impress anymore. You're trying to express your truth, your voice, your healing. And if that means leaving behind the old systems, the hustle culture, the fake grind, the empty flexes, then so be it. Because being chosen isn't about being first. It's about being free. The ego must die so the authentic self can live. Layer 5. Time breaks down. Awareness transcends linear time. Have you ever stared at the clock, only to realize that hours have passed, and yet it felt like minutes? Or maybe you swear it's been forever, but the hands on the clock barely moved. No, you're not distracted. No, you're not dissociating, you're awakening. Because when your consciousness begins to evolve, time starts bending around you. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious mind does not obey the rules of linear time. It lives in a realm of symbols, archetypes, and synchronicity, where past, present, and future are not fixed lanes, but fluid energies all moving at once. And as your soul begins to awaken, you stop living by the calendar and start living by the compass. You begin to feel it. Deadlines lose their grip. Schedules feel suffocating. The rigid 5-year plan you once clung to now feels irrelevant. You're no longer addicted to the illusion of control. You stop measuring life in minutes and start feeling it in moments. Because for the first time you realize the truth, the soul is timeless. The awakening doesn't happen on schedule. It happens on alignment. The world may tell you, hurry up, you're behind. Success has a deadline. But your soul whispers something deeper. You are exactly where you're meant to be. You're not lazy. You're not procrastinating. You're learning to listen to a clock that exists beyond the mind, the divine rhythm of the universe. And this new rhythm? It doesn't rush. It doesn't force. It flows. You stop living in the past. You stop fearing the future. And you begin experiencing now in its most raw and beautiful form. Because in awakening, you don't just transcend ego, you transcend time. Suddenly, you trust divine timing more than perfect planning. You trust synchronicity more than strategy. You trust your intuition more than your alarm clock. And that's where peace begins. Carl Jung believed in a sacred concept called synchronicity, where the universe aligns people, events, and opportunities not by logic, but by meaning. So when you feel time breaking, when you lose track of it during deep thought, healing, or stillness, you're not malfunctioning, you're aligning. You're tapping into the eternal self, the version of you that has existed across lifetimes, lessons, and dimensions. And that self doesn't chase anything. It trusts. It surrenders. It receives. The old you was obsessed with being on time. The awakened you is obsessed with being in tune. Let them race. Let them hustle. Let them measure their life in how many tasks they can squeeze into a day. You're here to feel eternity in a single breath. Because once your soul awakens, time doesn't control you anymore. It moves with you. Layer 6. You crave solitude, the return to the inner temple. People don't understand. You used to be the one who was always around, the friend, the helper, the listener, the loyal one. But now, you crave space. You crave stillness. You crave solitude. And the world starts labeling you antisocial, withdrawn, cold, even lonely. But none of those words capture what's really happening. Because you're not running from the world. You're returning to yourself. You just want to be alone. not to escape others, but to meet yourself. This is not depression. This is not burnout. This is the return to the inner temple. And Carl Jung knew this well. He believed that solitude is not isolation, it is the furnace in which the true self is forged. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in total silence? No phone, no music, no people, no scrolling, just you, your thoughts, and your breath. For most, silence is terrifying, because when the noise fades, the truth surfaces, the pain you've buried, the questions you've avoided, the parts of you you've ignored for years, but not for you, not anymore. You're learning to sit in that silence, to feel its weight, to let it teach you, because something deep inside knows. In the noise of the world, you forget who you are, but in stillness, you remember. And when you remember, you reconnect with your essence. Not the version of you society trained, but the raw, wild, divine part of you that's been patiently waiting under the surface. You unplug from the matrix, you disconnect from the external drama, and you start hearing a voice you haven't heard in a long time, your own. Not the anxious voice, not the inner critic, but the soul's whisper. The voice that says, I've missed you. I'm proud of you. Let's begin again. This is why the chosen ones retreat, not because they hate people, but because they're becoming people they've never been before. You no longer want to be around chaos. You don't have the energy for shallow talk. You don't want to perform anymore. You just want to be. And for the first time, you don't feel empty in your own company. You feel home, because solitude is not a punishment. It's a sacred appointment, with the version of you that only shows up when no one else is watching. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, but who looks inside awakes." And in solitude, you awaken. You stop chasing crowds. You stop fearing silence. You stop seeking distractions. You start embracing the void, because you now understand the void isn't empty. It's where your real self lives. The return to the inner temple is not easy. It will test your strength. It will bring up buried grief. It will strip away false attachments. But it will also give you gifts nothing else can. Inner peace, self-trust, clarity, spiritual protection, authentic power. So next time someone asks why you're always alone, don't explain. Smile, because they wouldn't understand that in this sacred solitude, you are not alone. You are finally with yourself. And that is where the journey begins. Layer 7. A mission begins to whisper. The soul's archetype emerges. There comes a moment, quiet, subtle, strange, when something inside you starts to stir. You can't explain it. You can't articulate it. You can't even prove it to anyone. But it's there, like a fire in your chest that won't go out, like a whisper in the dark that keeps saying, you were born for something more. It's not a job offer. It's not a checklist. It's not a step-by-step plan. It's deeper than ambition, stronger than motivation. It's a pull, a vibration, a sacred knowing. Carl Jung believed that each soul carries an archetypal purpose, a spiritual blueprint that is hidden beneath layers of ego, trauma, and social conditioning. This purpose isn't assigned by society. It's not a career path or a title. It's not something you choose, it's something that chooses you. And when it begins to rise, Guido, it doesn't speak in language, it speaks in energy. Suddenly, the things that used to excite you feel small. You can't fake interest in the shallow stuff anymore. Parties bore you. Dead-end conversations exhaust you. Trivial goals feel like distractions. Because deep down, your soul is waking up. And it's not whispering about comfort. It's calling you to something sacred, something bigger than you, something terrifying yet undeniable. You feel it in your body, in your dreams, in the way your heart aches when you see suffering, in the way you cry for no reason, like your soul is remembering something your mind forgot. You feel chosen, but not in a prideful way, in a burdened way, like something ancient is returning to you, like you've been preparing for this your entire life and without even realizing it. And the more you try to ignore it, the louder it gets. You can't go back to normal. You can't unhear the call. You can't pretend to fit into a system your soul has outgrown. Because this is not just about healing anymore. It's about rising. rising into the version of you that your soul designed before your body was even born, rising into your archetype, the inner healer, the teacher, the guide, the truth-teller, the awakener. You didn't come here to fit in. You came here to awaken others by becoming fully you. And that is the most terrifying and beautiful mission of all. Because when you become fully you don't need to preach. You become the message. Your presence shifts rooms. Your silence teaches. Your story heals. Your pain becomes someone else's permission slip to rise. You'll notice that you're no longer looking for the world to give you a mission. You've become magnetic to it. You'll find books falling off shelves with the answers. You'll meet people who speak to your soul. You'll get signs so clear you can't unsee them, because the universe is conspiring to help you remember what your soul already knows. You didn't come here to perform. You came here to transform, and not just yourself, but the people watching you, silently praying that someone, somewhere, would show them the way out of their darkness. That's your role, not savior, not superior, but mirror. To show others what's possible when you stop dimming your light and start living from your soul. So if you feel the whisper, if something inside is calling you beyond the ordinary, don't ignore it. Don't wait for clarity. Don't beg for permission. Trust it. Follow it. Let it lead you where logic cannot go. Because the moment you honor that whisper, your entire life begins to realign, not for comfort, but for legacy, not for fame, but for purpose, not for attention, but for truth. This is the birth of your soul's mission. This is your return to yourself. This is how the world changes, one awakened soul at a time. Layer 8, you can't pretend anymore, the permanent awakening. This is it, the final layer, the point of no return, the moment when the masks you once wore don't even fit your face anymore. You look around at the world, and you can't unsee the truth. You can't unfeel the disconnect. You can't unlive the awakening. Because once your soul has awakened, you can't go back to sleep. You no longer laugh at jokes that wound your spirit. You no longer say yes out of guilt or fear. You no longer sit at tables that require your silence to be accepted. You no longer wear politeness as a disguise for pain. You no longer perform just to keep the peace. You're done playing small. You're done dimming your light to make others comfortable. You're done abandoning yourself just to be liked. Because now, you've met the most powerful force in the universe, your real self. And once you've met them, everyone and everything that doesn't honor that truth starts to fall away. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And that's exactly what you've done. You've walked through the fire of ego death. You've peeled off every false layer. You've cried the tears that cleanse the soul. You've faced the shadows, danced with the doubts, and stood naked in your truth. You've stopped pretending. You've stopped hiding. You've stopped shrinking. And that, my brother, is the rarest kind of freedom. Not the freedom to do anything, but the freedom to be everything you truly are. You no longer need applause, because your peace is louder. You no longer need approval, because your alignment is stronger. You no longer seek attention because your presence is powerful enough. You are no longer driven by proving. You're guided by presence, by purpose, by a connection that doesn't need to be explained, because it's felt. You walk differently, speak differently, listen differently. You radiate a quiet confidence that says, "I'm no longer pretending," and people will feel it. They'll see it in your eyes, that deep inner stillness that can't be faked. You're not here to blend in. You're here to awaken others simply by being real. In a world full of masks, you've become the rarest force of all, someone who dares to be whole. Because the one who is real cannot be controlled, cannot be manipulated, cannot be owned. The one who is real becomes limitless. And now, the final truth. You will lose things on this journey. Old friends, old roles, old identities, even old versions of yourself. But what you gain in return is everything: clarity, peace, power, alignment, a mission that moves through your veins, a connection to something divine, and a life that finally feels like home. So don't apologize for your awakening. Don't shrink to keep others comfortable. Don't explain your evolution to people still addicted to the performance. You've remembered who you are, And that memory will change everything. Because this isn't just healing anymore. This is the permanent awakening. And once you're fully awake, you become unstoppable. Layer 9. You attract triggers that force you to level up. Why does it seem like life keeps testing you? Why do you attract the betrayals, the setbacks, the deep heartbreaks and painful breakdowns? Why does your path feel harder, more emotional, more intense? It's not because you're cursed, it's not karma punishing you, and it's definitely not bad luck. It's because your soul is in training. Carl Jung called it the process of individuation. A spiritual and psychological evolution, where life doesn't just happen to you, it shapes you, it tests you, it tears off everything fake, so you can finally meet the real you. Breakups that felt like your heart would never heal were divine redirections, not to destroy your love, but to destroy the illusions around it, betrayals that shattered your trust. They weren't accidents, they were mirrors. They showed you where you abandoned yourself, where you gave your power away, where you ignored your intuition just to feel loved. Because real awakening doesn't always come wrapped in light. Sometimes it comes as a breakdown, as a trigger, as a wound that refuses to be ignored. Carl Jung believed the shadow isn't evil, it's just unconscious. And life in its infinite wisdom will send you people and situations that expose that shadow, again and again, until you face it, until you heal it, until you stop projecting it. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That's why you attract the same kind of people, the same kind of pain. It's not because the world hates you. It's because your soul is screaming, wake up, pay attention. There's a lesson here. And when you finally stop blaming the trigger, you start reclaiming your power. Because every time someone abandons you, you remember to stop abandoning yourself. Every time someone disrespects you, you learn to reinforce your boundaries. Every time life pushes you to the edge, you learn how to fly. This is not easy, it's brutal, but it's sacred. Because these triggers, they're not meant to destroy you. They're designed to initiate you, to wake up the parts of you that still live in fear, people-pleasing, self-doubt, and pain. You are not being punished. You are being refined. The universe isn't against you, it's forging you, in the fire of your own potential, so you can become the version of you that your mission requires. So the next time life punches you in the soul, don't just ask, why me? Ask, what is this here to teach me? Ask, what part of me is still waiting to be seen? Ask, where am I still holding on to the old version of me? Because triggers are sacred guides, not signs of failure, but signs of transformation. You can keep running, keep blaming, keep numbing, or you can go deeper, look at the wound, name it, feel it, hold it, heal it. That is the work of the awakened soul. That is the initiation of a chosen one. The path is not easy, but it is worth it. Because on the other side of that trigger is your power, your clarity, your unshakable self-worth. The kind of self-worth that doesn't need validation, because it's rooted in truth. So if you're hurting right now, if life feels unfair, unrelenting, unforgiving, breathe. You are not broken. You are becoming. The pain is not the end of your story. It's the chapter where the warrior in you is born, the part where you stop being a victim of your past and start becoming the author of your future. Carl Jung didn't say the shadow disappears. He said it must be integrated, owned, embraced, turned into wisdom. That's how you level up. Not by avoiding trigger, but by transforming through them. And here's the truth nobody tells you. Your biggest trigger holds your biggest transformation. That person who broke you, they didn't ruin you. They revealed the crack, so you could pour gold into it. That failure that shattered your plans, it wasn't the end, it was the start of a new blueprint. That breakdown where you thought you'd never recover, it cracked open the surface, so your soul could finally breathe. This is spiritual alchemy, turning wounds into wisdom, pain into power, grief into growth. The universe doesn't waste pain. It repurposes it, so you can become unshakable. You're not here to stay soft for the sake of comfort. You're here to be sculpted, and triggers are the chisel. Each heartbreak, each loss, each moment of why me is actually a sacred reminder. You're being upgraded, so stop shrinking, stop doubting, Stop replaying the past. Start asking, what is this carving out of me? Because when the ego dies, the soul rises. When the lie falls away, the truth appears. When the trigger is healed, the power is revealed. This is shadow work. This is the path of the awakened. And if you're feeling it right now, you're right on schedule. Layer 10. You start seeing signs, symbols, synchronicity, repeating numbers, déjà vu. Dreams that speak louder than people. Strange coincidences that feel like divine winks. Jung believed that the universe communicates through archetypes and synchronistic events, but only those with a higher vibration can decode them. Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. You start to realize the world isn't just matter, it's message. That one book that fell off the shelf. That stranger who said exactly what you needed to hear. That gut feeling that saved you. It's not coincidence, it's consciousness. You're not imagining it, you're aligning. And when you align, life starts mirroring you. The inner world begins shaping the outer one. You think of someone, and they call. You say a prayer, and the answer arrives through a song, a quote, a number. These are not accidents, they're activations. Carl Jung believed that when we integrate our unconscious and become whole, we no longer live in separation, we live in meaning. Whatever is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate. Synchronicity is your soul's way of whispering, you're not alone. You're on the path. Keep going. The signs won't always make logical sense. They won't always come with instructions, but they will come with energy. And that energy? You'll feel it. In your chest, in your dreams, in your bones. You'll feel a pull, a pattern, a message. You may see 11:11 on the clock, not because it's magical, but because you're becoming aware of magic. You may run into the same phrase again and again, because your soul is highlighting what your mind is ignoring. The universe doesn't speak English. It speaks frequency. Pay attention. Pay. The right people will appear. The right lessons will surface. And even the breakdowns will be in perfect timing. This is what happens when you awaken. You start seeing how guided you've always been. How nothing was random. Not the heartbreak, not the delay, not even the suffering. It was all sacred, all orchestrated, not to break you, but to prepare you. Because when your soul is ready, the world around you shifts to reflect it. Synchronicity is the echo of your alignment, and it gets louder the more conscious you become. So if you're seeing the signs, stop doubting them. Start decoding them. They're not just coincidences, they're confirmations, reminders, whispers from the divine. You are not off track. You're not alone. You're not behind. You're exactly where your soul needs to be. Trust that. Because when you live in alignment, synchronicity becomes your second language. The universe becomes your GPS, and every step, every sign, every sacred symbol becomes proof that the divine is walking with you. Always. You're not losing yourself. You're meeting your soul. If you've resonated with even one of these layers, that moment of silence, that sense of disconnection from the normal, that ache for solitude, that whisper that keeps saying, there's something more. Know this, you are not broken. You are breaking through. You are not crazy. You are cracking open. You are not falling apart. You are falling into alignment. You're not losing yourself. You're meeting the part of you that was buried beneath roles, expectations, and illusions. The part of you that was silenced for survival, but is now rising for purpose. You're entering what Carl Jung called the individuation process, a sacred, soul-initiated transformation where you stop performing for the world and start becoming whole, where your ego surrenders, your soul remembers, and your spirit steps into full alignment. This path isn't for the masses. It's not loud, it's not glamorous, and it's definitely not easy. But if you've been chosen, you'll feel it in your bones, you'll hear it in your dreams, you'll see it in the signs. And once it starts, there's no going back, because the soul never forgets its assignment. You may feel like you're losing friends, losing interest, losing control. But what you're truly losing is the version of you that was never real. The masks, the noise, the false dreams, and what you're gaining is the most powerful thing in the world. You, aligned, awakened, and unstoppable. This is not the end of your story. It's the sacred beginning of your return. To purpose, to presence, to power, to peace. Claim your soul's path. Now that you feel it, don't scroll past it. Don't silence the call. Declare it, align with it, activate it. Drop a comment below. I'm ready to walk the path of the chosen. Share this video with someone else whose soul is awakening. Like this video to claim your energy shift. Subscribe, because this journey is just beginning and we're walking it together. And remember, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Carl Jung. If you found your way here, it's not by chance, it's by choice. A soul-level choice your higher self made long before this moment. So let's walk this path. Together. Whole. Awake. Unapologetically real. Because when one soul awakens, it gives others permission to rise too, and that's how the world changes. One awakened soul at a time.